Lost in Translation. Boy, that was a good movie. Bill Murray, Scarlett Johansson. Oh, I love that movie. Also Lost in Translation, apparently, some people are saying, government's latest ad campaign, anti-racism, anti-prejudice ad campaign. And there was a hullabaloo that started yesterday over the fact that on the English version of the ads, they took out the word, well, in the French ad, it's Québécois, and they didn't put Quebecer in the ad. Apparently, that's a big problem. I have no problem with it. I think it sounds better without the word because they start off within Quebec. But I digress. Let's talk to Christopher Skeete, CAQ MNA for Sainte-Rose, responsible for relations with English-speaking Quebecers. Mr. Skeete, Christopher, welcome back to the show.
Nice to be back, Elias. Always a pleasure to be on with you. I'm also the parliamentary assistant to the minister responsible for racism, so it's a double hat that I wear.
Okay, wonderful. That's right. You've added to your portfolio. So, Christopher, I got to ask you this: what happened on Monday afternoon? How was your Monday afternoon?
It was brutal because what should have been good news turned out to be not so much. It's a shame, really, because we were really proud of that ad campaign, and that ad campaign is going to be funded in the high millions to make sure that people understand that in Quebec we want to be free of discrimination and that we want to have a really aggressive anti-racism policy, and to have it start off this way is a little bit unfortunate for the English community.
Yeah, so I just want to ask you, because Benoit Charette goes on the record. He goes on his Twitter and says, "Oh, this shouldn't have happened. That they're going to change the ad." Well, what is your take here? What was it an oversight? Should the word what's your take on this on the whole translation?
So basically, the way it happens is, the government of Quebec sets out priorities and says we want to have an ad campaign, and we vet the ad campaign, and the ad agency comes up with different scenarios, and then those scenarios get approved in the communications department of the government of Quebec. What happened is when they were translating the video, when they were translating the word, the translators determined, I don't know how, but they determined that the word Quebecer in English doesn't mean the same thing as it means in French. And you and I both know that I've spent the last 3 years of my mandate trying to make English-speaking Quebecers feel more included and reminding them that they are full-fledged, full-patched Quebecers. So, to have it come out this way goes against what I've been trying to do, which is why I'm happy that we're going to be going back to the drawing board.
Okay, so I have to say, Christopher, I hate that this has turned into a controversy because I think the ad works without the word Quebecer. It starts off with "in Quebec." There's a Quebec government logo at the end. It's on Quebec television in English. I think people are trying. I feel, Christopher, that people are trying to find controversy where none exists. Because, by the way, this started on the French side, and it was French commentators that were blasting this ad because they said, "Oh, look, you see, this is proof Anglophones don't want to be part of Quebec." Everyone, and I think this is I think it's a symptom of our culture right now, where we get outraged over everything.
You're right that it is a symptom of our times. I think a lot of people in the English community are suspicious of the government of Quebec because we have a difficult history with this with the government of Quebec over the past 50 years, and but this doesn't help, which is why one of the things that I've done with the Secretariat is that we've doubled the budget. We've tried to add resources to remind people that this Quebec flag that was usurped by sovereignists belongs to us also. So, I think it's unfortunate that, it's a big deal, and I hope it doesn't remove from what we're trying to do, which is to remind people that this government is committed to eliminating racism in Quebec.
And finish your thought.
Ahead.
No, finish your
thought.
Well,
I was just going to say, so hopefully we'll remember that this is actually good news, that there's an ad campaign in both languages being brought about, so that we can remind people that we want to live in a better place where racism is not accepted.
I'm looking at the press release from December of 2020, which announced the plan of the action group against racism in Quebec. This was one of the recommendations in advertisement campaign. You're doing this over 3 years. It's $3.5 million. So this is the first of many ads to come. Is that correct?
What we want to do is we want to make sure that this is one of those ads that goes on in time, not just a little, splash in the water. We want it to be kind of like what you see with the SAAQ ads, recurrent, changing, to make sure that it really stays as a social movement. So this campaign is going to be well funded in over a few years. That's the first thing. But you said that this is the first thing we've done. Actually, that's the second thing that we've done. The first thing was to name the first ever minister responsible for racism. So that's another way that we've moved the needle in terms of trying to fight racism.
Sorry, I didn't mean to say it was the first thing. If I misspoke, I apologize on that. But yes, you've done a couple of things on that list of recommendations. So Christopher, let's move it on here to another subject, because one of the reasons why I'm perturbed that this advertising campaign and a translation has become such an issue is because I feel it gets our eye off the ball. What really matters to the English community. So let's spend a few minutes here talking about things that matter to the English community. Of course, we're with Christopher Skeete, CAQ MNA for Sainte-Rose, responsible for relations with English-speaking Quebecers. So let's talk about that dossier. Bill 96 here, Christopher. I see you and Marlene having Twitter spats on this issue with relations to the future of English services in this province, okay? And I see you going back, and you mentioned, well, there's a grandfather clause. And my worry here, Christopher, is on things like healthcare. And I see smart people saying, you know what? This bill is going to impact access to healthcare in English in this province, Bill 96. And that, I got to be honest, it worries me. And when I see you with the comebacker on Twitter and the Donald Glover gif that, well, we've got a grandfather clause, I don't think there should be grandfather clauses on something like access to English services. That to me doesn't seem like it's fair or right. So give it to us straight here, Christopher. English services, Bill 96. I have concerns. The community has concerns. What do you say to them?
So let's talk about the notwithstanding clause. Not the notwithstanding clause, but the grandfather clause. Mm-hmm. The grandfather clause speaks to receiving services from the government, any services, SAAQ, receiving your Revenue Quebec documents. Those are the types of services that have the grandfather clause. If before the bill was dropped, you were receiving services in English, you will continue to receive your services in English. That has nothing to do with your right as a Quebecer, regardless of your status, to have health care in the language of your choice. And it has nothing to do with the access that you have of retaining justice in the language of your choice. These are two things that are separate from Bill 96 because Section 15 of the Health and Social Services Act guarantees English services for English-speaking Quebecers and others who express themselves in English when receiving healthcare services. Section 122 of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms guarantees access to justice regardless of the notwithstanding clause in Bill 96 for people who want to have access to justice in English. So this is the kind of thing that I understand generates a lot of fear and angst. But we have to start talking about real issues because I can't address fake issues. Now, the bill does not target healthcare, and it does not target access to health. And the grandfather clause is only for administrative things, getting mail in English, getting mail for somebody who's an immigrant who's been here for 20 years, getting their mail in English from the government of Quebec. That will continue because of the grandfather clause. However, a new arrival, a new immigrant who chooses Quebec, will have to transition to French, which is basically what we've been saying in Quebec since 1977 and the passage of Bill 101.
Okay, so let's imagine a world where Bill 96 passes and it's 2 years down the road. Let's say it's 2024, for example. Bill 96 is law. You guys have won a second mandate. Someone moves here from Britain. Right? They move here from Britain because they got a job offer in the artificial intelligence community. And then they've been here for a year and they want to get, they go to the hospital and they want to get access to service in English. What happens to them?
That person, because of Section 15 of the Health and Social Services Act, will be allowed to receive healthcare services in English.
So why do you, because I see doctors commenting on this. I see legal experts commenting on this. And they're like, whoa, this is not the case. And they're very concerned. So what's happening here? And maybe, do you have to do a better job of communicating if I see so many smart people saying, oh, this is not going to happen?
I think language in Quebec is a loaded topic. And I think it generates a lot of fear. So from the outset, there's a challenge to get through that fear. The other side of the equation is it is a complex bill with over 200 articles. So I think people get scared when they see something that big and feel as though it's going to impact their rights. But the government of Quebec is not in the business of denying Quebecers access to healthcare on the basis of language. The important thing when you're receiving healthcare services is to be better, to get better, and to be well, not to have a language debate. And this bill in no way intends that. So I have to think that instead of having me over once a week, Elias, maybe you should have me over every couple days.
All right, Christopher, we'll look into that. Hey, you may not have answered this. I have a serious, curious question. Do you know what percentage of the CAQ party membership is Anglo?
You have to ask Brigitte Legault, who's our DG. She's in charge of those data. I'm not sure that we collect that data.
Oh, interesting.
But you'd have to ask her. I'm not familiar with the details of that. It's been a while since I was vice president.
Christopher Skeete has a new position to his dossier. What's the new position, Christopher? Again, reminder, listeners.
Well, it's not that new. It's been 6 months now, but I'm the parliamentary assistant to Benoit Charette, the Minister for the Fight Against Racism. Okay. I'm his parliamentary assistant in that file.
Parliamentary assistant on the fight against racism, parliamentary secretary for François Legault, who's the Minister of Relations with English-speaking Quebecers. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Anytime, Elias, and take care.